45 is on the sheet. Is that it? No. The first. Oh, that's the first one. Okay. Pravishyatat tirtavaram Adi Raja Sahatmaja Tadarsamunimasinam Tasmin Huta Hutasanam Pravishyatat tirtavaram Adi Raja Sahatmaja Tadarsamunimasinam Tasmin Huta Hutasanam And then there's two more verses. Vidyotamanam vapusa tapasyugra yujachiram natiksamam bhogavata snigdha pangavalokanat tatyaritam ritakala piyasa sravanina cha pramsum padma palasakam Jatilam chiravasanam upasam sritya maninam yatarhanam asanskritam pravisya entering tat that tirtavaram best of sacred places Adiraja the first monarch Swayambhuvamanu Sa Atmaja along with his daughter Dadarsa saw Munin the sage Asinam sitting Tasmin in the hermitage Huta being offered oblations, Utasanam, the sacred fire, Vidyuttamanam, shining brilliantly, Vapusa, by his body, Tapasi, in penance, Ugra, terribly, Yuja, engaged in yoga, Chiram, for a long time, Na, not, Atiksamam, very emaciated, Bhagavata, of the Lord, Snigdha, affectionate, Upanga, no, it's Apanga, sidelong. Okay.
avalokanat, from the glance, tat, of him, vyarita, from the words, amritakala, moonlike, piyusa, the nectar, shravanena, by hearing, cha, and pramshun, tall, padma, lotus flower, palasha, petal, aksam, eyes, jatilam, matted locks, chiravasanam, having rags for clothes, upasamsritya, having approached, malinam, soiled, yata, like, arhanam, gem, asanskritam, unpolished. Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter, and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swayambhuva saw the sage sitting in his hermitage, having just perpetuated the sacred fire by pouring oblations into it. His body shone most brilliantly. Though he had engaged in austere penance for a long time, he was not emaciated, for the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large, like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhuva approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem. Purport. Here are some descriptions of a brahmachari yogi. In the morning, the first duty of a brahmachari seeking spiritual elevation is hutasana, to offer sacrificial oblations to the Supreme Lord. Those engaged in brahmacharya cannot sleep until 7 or 9 o'clock in the morning. They must rise early in the morning, at least 1.5 hours before the sun rises, and offer oblations. Or in this age they must chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna. As referred to by Lord Chaitanya, Kalu naste eva nasteva nasteva gatiranyata. There's no alternative in this age to chanting the holy name of the Lord. The brahmachari must rise early in the morning, and after placing himself should chant the holy name of the Lord. From the very features of the sage, it appeared that he had undergone great austerities. That is the sign of one observing brahmacharya, the vow of celibacy. If one lives otherwise, it will be manifest in the lust visible in his face and body. The word vijuttamanam indicates that the brahmachari feature showed in his body. That is a certificate that one has undergone great austerity in yoga. A drunkard or smoker or sex-monger can never be eligible to practice yoga. Generally, yogis look very skinny because of their not being comfortably situated. But Kadamba Muni was not emaciated, for he had seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Here the word Sniktapango Valokanat means that he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Lord face to face. He looked healthy because he had directly received the nectarian sound vibrations from the lotus lip of Supreme Person of the Personality of Godhead. Similarly, one who hears the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, also improves in health. We have actually seen that many brahmacharis and grihastas connected with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness have improved in health, and a luster has come to their faces. It is essential that a brahmachari engaged in spiritual advancement look very healthy and lustrous. The comparisons of the sage to an unpolished gem is very appropriate. Even if a gem just taken from a mine looks unpolished, the luster of the gem cannot be stopped. Similarly, although Kadamba Muni was not properly dressed and his body was not properly cleansed, his overall appearance was gem-like. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyanandana Salakaya Sakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Kadamba Muni was dedicated to purity. As a brahmachari, not only was he following vows of celibacy, but he had also focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because what is the point of Varna Ashram without Sansiddhir Haritosanam, without satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So yes, he had strictly followed the rules of brahmacharya, and because he had dedicated himself in remembering and glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore his brahmacharya had produced the auspicious result. Not only had he become austere and detached from worldly sense gratification, not only had the affliction of lust been minimized in his appearance and in his consciousness, but he had also filled his consciousness with attachment to the Supreme Lord. And that is the ultimate purpose of any ashram. Without focusing on the Supreme Lord, we can get all the benefits of Varna Ashram, but that will never lift us above the fruitive activity of the material world. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled in South India and came across the Tattvavadi Acharya, and he asked him, he said, what is the ultimate goal according to the scripture? And the Tattvavadi Acharya was saying, it is Varna Ashram, to perfectly perform the duties of Varna Ashram. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not very satisfied with that answer, and said that Varna Ashram is always fruitive. It is always, therefore, material. It is the path of material improvement. We're trying to get through Varna Ashram in a better material condition. And then that better material condition is to be used for devotional service. One can engage in devotional service from any condition of life. The affliction of the modes of material nature may be where one is predominated by tamagun, the mode of ignorance. Still, even from that condition, one can take up devotional service. Although in that condition one is unclean, one's habits are unclean, one has many bad habits, intoxication, one is not taking baths, one may be accustomed to lying, cheating, and so many things. Still one can take up devotional service, but it will be difficult to maintain, because the influence of ignorance is strong and will pull us away. If one is influenced by the influence of passion and is very much focused on enjoying the material energy, then also spiritual life will mean an inner battle. Then one feels the pulling of these material desires very strongly, and it becomes a great dilemma how to overcome them. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, then one is already sense controlled. Then one is already mind and senses controlled, already proper behavior, of cleanliness, and so on. So in this way, the mode of goodness is parallel to the spiritual behavior, to sadachar, the behavior of saintly persons. Therefore, for one in the mode of goodness, it is easier to remain situated in sadhana bhakti, in the process of cultivating pure devotional service. The sage was thoroughly situated in the mode of goodness. The sage had followed all the principles of goodness and had controlled the mind and senses through practice, not by a resolve, not by a resolution, and from this day on I shall be in goodness. No, he had cultivated the activities of goodness. And in the same way, we are also in our spiritual life catching up. Although our condition may have been one of a mixture of the modes of material nature with a lot of influence of the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, still by cultivating the mode of goodness, we are becoming nicely anchored in an external way of life that is favorable for spiritual life. And therefore, we're cultivating. And as here is stated, we are rising early in the morning, at least 1.5 hours before sunrise, Brahma Muhurta, and all these things. And then we are chanting the holy name. So that we will be situated simultaneously in goodness and in on the transcendental plane. I like to use the metaphor of the court in a circus, high up in the tent, and one moves on the court with difficulty, balancing himself. That is the transcendental platform. For one who is in love of God, he just walks on that court, and to him it is a wide road. But then below that cord is the net that catches us. The net is made of many strands that are, or many different principles of the mode of goodness. So in this way, at least we are caught in the mode of goodness, so that we don't get down on the ground and deal with Maya, struggling with all the 3 modes of material nature. Because if we're trying to deal with our spiritual life while struggling at the same time with the 3 modes of material nature, we'll be very weak. We'll be very, very easily swept up. Just as in Bhagavad Gita, the point is raised by Arjuna. How is it that a man against his will engages in activities that are undesirable, just like a boat is swept away by the wind? How is this? And then we understand that it is due to the influence of the lower modes of nature and the affliction of lust. As we are more and more afflicted by the lower modes of nature, we are more and more afflicted by lust and envy. Ichchadvesa samuttena dvandamahena bharata. All living beings in this material world are afflicted by lust and envy. As we are getting purified and coming to the higher modes of nature, this will diminish. Devotional service will automatically lift us up from the lower modes of nature. Tadara just tamo bhava kamalo bharyaschaye mateviti tanvidi sitam sattva pasidati. It will automatically lift us above tamas and rajas and situate us in the mode of goodness, devotional service. So bhakti also has an elevating effect and elevates us first of all to the mode of goodness and increases our attachment to Krishna. And then that attachment to Krishna will bring us to the transcendental platform. So in this way, the sage was a personality of the highest caliber, someone of a noble nature, someone who was emanating purity. Swayambhuva Manu, who came along with his qualified daughter, Devahuti, came for that purpose, and came for the purpose of offering his daughter to Kadamba Muni. Of course, they were to be the parents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Kapila Dev. So they were not ordinary personalities. Their marriage was also not ordinary. It was transcendental. Still, when we're reading this chapter, it appears that within Kadamba Muni there was some material desire, that he approached the Lord for some material enjoyment, and that there was, and that he was also given that opportunity to enjoy. Anyway, those things will be outlined later in the chapter. So it appears that Kadamba Muni was was a devotee of the Lord, but a karma misra devotee, a devotee who still had some desire for material enjoyment. But that desire for material enjoyment became more and more purified, and he took sannyas. And then sannyas is also an ashram, so sannyas is also an external arrangement, an opportunity for the sadhaka, for the practitioner, to become more purified. We see that in our sampradaya, the 6 Goswamis did not take sannyas. They just renounced the world. Sankhya Purvaga Nama Gananatibi. They just took up the chanting of the holy name, and then they just renounced the Asesha Mandala Patishrenim, the wealth that belonged to aristocratic men. So they gave up all this and took a very simple lifestyle, basically the lifestyle of the Babaji, chanting so many rounds. And we see how that Babaji ashram was styled after the 6 Goswamis. And the 6 Goswamis then, they were not concerned with externals. So it's that the Babaji Vesh, or the external behavior and dress of the Babaji, is basically the Paramahansa platform. The platform where one is completely transcendental to this world, and then one just gives up everything, lives very renounced, and just chants and glorifies the Supreme Lord. Then the sannyas ashram is within Varna ashram, is then still an ashram meant for sadhaka. Of course, within the sannyas ashram there are also different stages, from the kutichak, the sannyasi who stays in a little hut near his village, and they bring some food, and and he performs his bhajan and tapas, and then the sannyasi who is bahudak, who goes and begs in different places, door to door, and just by performing madhukari, like the bee takes some honey from, a little bit of honey from every flower. So it doesn't depend on one particular arrangement. Then the Parivrajak Acharya, who travels around the world or wherever he moves and preaches, and the Paramahansa, who is completely transcendental and absorbed in always glorifying and remembering the Supreme Lord. So within sannyas that is also possible. Anyway, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did not take the Babaji face, but took sannyas, and as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. And sannyas then is particularly taken for preaching. So Kadamba Muni is of course on the way to sannyas, and that but we don't see so much description about his sannyas, because he the Bhagavatam stays with Devahuti and Kapila, who stay behind, because Kapila is the Supreme Lord. So we don't really have a lot of details of Kadamba Muni's sannyas. Something is there. So we are taking sannyas, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in this way, we are meant to live a life of simplicity, and at the same time, we are meant to widely preach the glories of the Supreme Lord. And that is the essential item. Simplicity, the essence of renunciation is to actually give up sex life. That is the tricky thing. One can give up some material opulence, but that anyone can do. We give up opulence on one side and be renounced, and compensate for it on the other side. I'm fasting from pakoras, but I'm eating 10 sweets to compensate for the pakoras. Then I can do it. Yes. So renunciation, where we give up one item and then indulge in another, is not complete. Complete renunciation comes only when there's attachment to serving Krishna. So therefore, in the Vaishnav community, etam sastaya paratmanistam ajazitam purvatamir bahat be aham tarisyanti duranta param tamo mukundangri nisevayeva. It is based, the paratmanista, the very firm determination, is not to give up the material world. The very firm determination is to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And when that determination is very strong, then one can be a sannyasi. When the determination is to give up the material world, then in this age sannyas is forbidden. That kind of sannyas is forbidden in this age. But the sannyas taken based on the determination to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada said that sannyas must be taken. He said it must be. Just for those who have not yet taken, they can take note of that word must.
It's not should. It's must. So, in this way, we are very pleased to, for those who are heroically stepping forward to actually renounce the world simply for serving the Lord. Because what else is there? What is there? In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about overcoming anarthas. So we're looking in this world and see so many anarthas. Why get so much entangled in so many things? Is it worth it? Having so much possessions and you have to work so hard to maintain them. And what if we could live without them? Wouldn't it be better to be simple instead of having so many things? And for that, we want to be married. We need house. We need vehicle. Then we need a job. Then we need qualifications. I mean, the entanglement, years of preparation, all that. And if one just said, forget it, then one doesn't need any of those things. So there are many advantages to renunciation in terms of being free from material entanglement. But it's all useless if the time and energy that we gain is not used for devotional service. So anyone who can free himself for more and more devotional service is a most fortunate person. And that is what makes a person really the topmost saintly personality. I'll leave it at that. Any questions, any comments are most welcome, if there are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. What's the difference between taking sannyas and being a Babaji?
The Babaji Vesh was particularly taken to just renounce the world and to fully absorb in glorification of the Lord. And deeply absorbed in bhajan. Whereas the sannyas, the Vaishnava sannyas, is particularly taken for first renouncing all material enjoyment, and then taking a lot of voluntary trouble for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. So the Babaji Vesh was particularly taken for the bhajan anandi, and the sannyas Vesh is particularly taken for Gosti Anandi, for one who wants to increase the Istagosti. Istagosti is not a horrible meeting where we all come together and are going to discuss the service roster, but Istagosti is rather the discussion of glorification of the Lord, and we want to increase the Istagosti, the gathering where the Lord is glorified all over the world. So we want to turn the whole world into one Istagosti, and that's the sannyasi's business, and for that the sannyasi takes a lot of trouble. Now we see that the 6 Goswamis, they were not bhajananandis, they were Gostianandis. They were writing literature for the sake of delivering the entire world. So, but generally we see that the Babaji Vesh is taken for one's own personal bhajan. and turning away from the world. And sannyas is generally the platform to preach. That's the distinction. And then, as I explained earlier, sannyas also has preliminary stages. On the Paramahansa level, there's what's the difference between Babaji and sannyas. But sannyas also has this kuti-chak, living in a little cottage. Like sometimes we think of our sannyasis, at least I think of myself, parivrajaka-charya, traveling all over the world. But then I was thinking, yeah, but I'm going from kutir to kutir, right? And I come in another kutir, and they're bringing me my food nicely, according to the diet sheet and everything. So I was wondering, am I actually living the parivrajak lifestyle, or am I living the kuti-chak lifestyle? Now, whatever may be, I leave that up to you to decide. But the point is that, so in sannyas, there are also in the sannyas ashram, there are preliminary stages that lead up to Paramahansa. Yeah. But generally, on the Paramahansa level, what is the difference? Oh. But then, on the Paramahansa level, sannyas, especially for preaching, and Babaji more for bhajan. Anyone else? Someone has to walk, and it's not Rukmini. She doesn't walk.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I just wanted to find out what happens if we renounce the world prematurely, and
what happens if we renounce the world prematurely? Then we're putting ourselves at risk of falling down. Prematurely means that we renounce without having actually any spiritual depth and any spiritual maturity. Therefore it said sannyas requires nistha. One must be at least situated in nistha. It's the minimum level. Otherwise not allowed to take sannyas. So nistha, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Tattva Viveka is explaining that the stages of devotional service are those Shraddha, Tata, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nartani Priti, right? That these stages, first Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, initial faith, association of devotees, regular practice, then purification. That is all part of the kanistha stage, the part of weak faith, the part of being a prakrita bhakta, the part of being materially attached and struggling with material desire. Maya is very strong, and that is the stage of struggle. So if one would take to renunciation, excessive renunciation like sannyas at that stage, the risk of fall down is very, very great. So that's not recommended. It's that sannyas begins at nistha. Yes, nistha means, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur then classifies that that's where Madhyam Adhikari begins. The Madhyam Adhikari's focus is on the spiritual side of life. He doesn't look back at the material side of life. He has full faith that all good will come. Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarvakrita Hai. That all good will come from devotional service, and therefore he is a very dedicated sadhaka. His focus then is abhideya, whereas the kanistha is struggling with sambandha. He has to make the connection strong. I know I should be doing this, but it's so difficult. Struggle. So, therefore, one should first be a regular practitioner and go through the stages that exist in the Kanistha Adhikari situation. From, as I said, from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and then the purification of the heart, until one becomes mature, and until one can just say, yes, I'm just going to dedicate my life following these scriptures and nothing else. I'm not interested in anything else. I'm just going to live my life by the injunctions of scriptures of Guru Sada Shastra. And then, but that's the minimum level. Still precarious, still dangerous. When ruchi comes in, when taste comes in, the next stage, when it's greatly inspired, then Maya goes at a greater distance. When Ashakti sets in, deep, deep attachment to Krishna, Maya is still further away. When ecstasy comes in, bhava, then Maya is a shadow, so almost absent. And when finally prem comes in, then one is beyond fall down. So fall down is a reality. Therefore premature renunciation can lead to fall down. Not recommended. But all of us have to be renounced. We all renounce sinful activities. We follow the 4 principles. We renounce so many things. But all that we renounce is suffering. That we have to understand. All the things we have renounced is actually suffering. So when we look back and think, oh, I've given up all these things, remember, what we've given up is suffering. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. No, I'm finished.